The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday in the Riv, and before
After a City Clowncil meeting.
A Clowncil meeting. Before you do, I just want to say let's all take a moment to remember the victims of the school shooting.
Yep.
Because unfortunately, as usual, it's being politicized by a lot of media outlets and a lot of groups. And you know, this should transcend politics, but unfortunately, in today's day and age, nothing transcends politics. So, remember the people who died, and it's about people being radicalized, and I don't believe in radicalism on either side, radical right, radical left.
And there's a lot of misinformation and differing stories about the shooter, about you know, what the shooter is, who the shooter was, why the shooter may have done this.
And you know, that's the thing that disturbs me. Look, listen, this is again, it's agenda driven.
Right.
They want to, it was a transgender. They're arguing over what pronouns reporters are using at the expense of, then they're talking about, and then actually I saw a thing the other day where National Public Radio, this super ultra liberal and anti all guns,
right,
was telling all transgenders to go out and arm themselves and create groups of militia. Mm-hmm. So this kind of dialogue does not help.
And you know what's interesting is I've heard reports that the shooter was not transgender, that the shooter was a biological female. That the shooter's position was because she did not want to go to that Christian school, and her parents made her go. And I mean, there's all kinds of stories, and you know, we don't know what goes on in the minds of the shooter.
Yeah.
And you know, it's sad that it comes to this, but you know, we can all try to look into the minds of the shooter after the fact, but it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, look, the bottom line is it shouldn't happen. We have a society that doesn't that actually makes this into a political platform for various groups rather than say this is unacceptable in this society. And they, you know, the story was the parents knew that the individual had mental issues and things, and also possessed guns. And so
according to reports, there's 7 firearms.
The bottom line is, you know, you should not be walking into a school, any school, let alone a Christian school, and because you disagree with their values and just shoot people. And until this society can go back to the time where certain behavior was unacceptable in this society will continue to be out of control. And we will continue to see this. But with that, I know you have some cleanup on aisle 2 today.
Well, first off, I want to thank Patrick for always watching our show. But I think a few misrepresentations need to be cleared up. Patrick, we do not listen to We Suck at Radio. That's why we call it We Suck at Radio. We get reports from its listeners and sound bites from its listeners on what was said about us or what was said in regards to some of the comments we've made. I understand that today Mr. Leary decided that he didn't want to talk about other shows. And I think that may not be from Mr. Leary, but I think that may be, and I'm making an assumption, which I shouldn't do, that it comes from the station management.
But it was
ownership.
Okay for Patrick to speak negatively about the show.
I was going to get into that, yes.
So, I mean, there again, the dual standard.
Right. And again, you know, one of the reasons why I call it We Suck at Radio is they violate people's First Amendment rights. I have not been able to call into that radio show, that radio station, for almost 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. And you'll notice I'm heartbroken about it. It just does me in. Because for me to call in, I'd have to listen. If I have to listen, I got to deal with a lot of propaganda, and I'm not really into propaganda. I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Leary. I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Tyrell. They both are doing something they feel they need to do. Jeff's probably better known for his Fall River Raw and his car salesmanship. But now he's becoming known on We Suck at Radio, and that's fine. But we are not negative. We speak the truth based on the facts that we have before us, based on the information we've received directly either from Government Center, the city clerk, or of sources. And we make it very clear when we make a negative comment or something that could be perceived as a negative comment, and Chip made it at the last show several times, this is my opinion. That's what we say. This is my opinion.
Yeah, I will clarify that when you're finished.
And we make sure that that happens. So, Patrick, while I appreciate your viewership and I treasure it every day, and I want to keep you as a viewer, please be sure that you're aware that we're not negative. I know that we're not really the mayor's best friend, and we call him out on just about everything because, again, he hasn't done a whole heck of a lot as far as we can tell. But, again, that's our opinion. If you feel he's done something, the space right here between the two of us is always open, and we'll be more than happy to have you on the show to talk about your position as we've offered the mayor and several other people. Because I'll tell you now, without you, this show is not worth it. And that's why this is important.
Okay, my turn. Well, thank you, Patrick, for watching us. And we've never denied anybody the right to their own opinion. However, it's about accuracy. And that entire show, it has to be, and anybody who wants to put it in context has to look at the whole show. And it is Spindle City Straight Talk, episode 23-33. So you can watch it on YouTube anytime you'd like. The whole reason for that particular part of the show was to highlight the fact that there are people who are in the media who do not speak facts. They give you their opinion, but they don't, they characterize it as some kind of fact. We were alluding to the show that they were having a conversation about we don't have, I go directly to the top, which whether you agree with that or not, it's not the right thing to do. Laura Washington is a duly elected city councilor. It is her job to represent the people of Fall River, not the mayor. And I articulated during that show very clearly all the erroneous numbers this city has represented. And I can go back 30 years and show you that numbers from this city are not accurate. So you're going to go to them. It's her job as in a legislative body to represent the people of Fall River and to check their numbers, not ask them what she should say about their numbers and how they justify their numbers. She's supposed to dig into them. And as far as the choice between malicious and stupid, that was about Hallen's razor. It's a razor. There's only two options for that question. And I said, I'm going with. I don't expect anybody else to go. But the fact is, again, when we speak, we have letters we read, U.S. Census Bureau statistics that we cite. I've got 30 of these things full of documentation. When we cite a number, it's not our number. It's not the mayor's number. It's not WSAR's number. It's the U.S. Census Bureau. It's a study from Cornell University. It's something that is not ours. It's something from a reputable source, not a political source that's pushing their own agenda. So let's make that perfectly clear, that when we say it, I have gone before that council for 40 years with a whole bunch of numbers on health care, on collective bargaining agreements, on a retirement system, and no one has ever said I had a wrong number, because they're not my numbers. I don't make things up. So if you want to characterize it as political rhetoric, I just want to put that in its place. When we talk about something, we've got things. When we say people are worried about being priced out, we got stuff like this from Channel 10 that says people are going to be priced out. When we talk about comments from the city, we have Facebook snapshots. When we talked about the stabbing, it was crickets in the city of Fall River, nothing on WSAR, nothing in the Herald News until we said it first, Channel 10 said it second, and when it broke on Channel 10, we're finally seeing someone was stabbed to death in the city of Fall River. That is why we're here, to give you the truth. And we can prove what we say. We're not going to sit here and say, well, you know, I don't think we should do this. I think I should go right to the top. No. If we're saying it's our opinion, we'll preface it with our opinion. I used Hallen's razor, and I gave facts. And again, it was buttressed, and it was vindicated last night. At last night's city council meeting, Laura Washington was again called out for not being accurate by the, what was the name of that? Some company called her out and said she represented what they did was totally a mischaracterization of fact.
Right.
And it started with a V.
VABC.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. It was another one, I think. But they mischaracterized things. So this is the key. They also read the letter.
Which we read.
And Michelle Dion made and she said she's not a bully. You know, this crap and negative, there's no such thing as negative. It's either true or it's not true. It's labels. One man's terrorist is another man's patriot. And the win is right history. And I said that on the last show. So this is crap. Stop labeling people. This is the whole problem with the society. There are social mores. There are rules of morality that we should be living by. And that should be totally divorced from political affiliations and your own personal political agenda. And that's the end of this, because I'm going to end it with something that isn't Western politics. It's Eastern philosophy from Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching, which is the book of life, because this is the way I live my life. It says, when you worry about what people say about you, you will always be their prisoner. And I'm nobody's prisoner.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
And now, let's get to that council meeting, because, boy, I'm telling you, that was an exercise in bobble-headedness.
Well, I'll tell you right now, as we've always seen before when it comes to contracts, we always haul in all the employees. Well, a couple of water department employees came in saying support the water rate increase, because it's going to increase my salary.
I'm getting a pay raise.
Because I'll be getting a pay raise, and we should get a pay raise because we're only making $16.50 an hour, which is $1.50 above minimum wage, and I can make more money at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, you can go work in Kentucky Fried Chicken, can't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Can't you?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole problem, okay? And I hate to interrupt your train of thought, but let me put this out. You know, and I frankly will say I always give Michelle a lot of kudos, but she voted for that because they conned her again.
She didn't vote for the water rate increase. No, she did not. She did not. She voted. It was 3-1 vote in the committee, and then it was an 8-1 vote.
Kudos to her,
and I spoke. Her and I spoke.
See, even though, like, because I can't watch that, you have to, because I'm getting sick of sticking pins in my eyes. I get a post, but one of the and we'll say it. Okay, great, good for her, because you know, I'm going to prove this is a con. It's always been a con. And these fools that sit in the council, they're either doing it as an excuse to give what they want so their friends can get a raise. But some of you may not know what a Judas goat is. You know what a Judas goat is? It's the goat that leads the other goats and sheep to the slaughter. and they spare its life. That's what a Judas goat is. Well, this faux concern about people making $16 an hour is the Judas goat they always use to box the council in. Oh, you're voting against the kids. You're voting against the low wages. You're voting against horse manure. 15 years ago, there was an article in the New Bedford Standard Times, the Sunday New Bedford Standard Times, that says if you're an administrator working Fall River, and if you're an employee working New Bedford, they have never cared about the low-wage employees. They're making $16 an hour. Were they making $16 an hour last year and the year before and the year before that? And they call that up? No. No. They use every excuse in the book to back these people up. Oh, they're making $16 an hour. Well, guess what? I negotiated contracts for 24 years in this city. And when I went up there, you know what they told me? Tough luck. You work in Fall River. You can't get paid like you're in Newton. You don't like it, go work in Newton. But they gave all the administrators big pay raises. Paulie said 4 new jobs, 4 new department heads in a school department making big numbers. Now all of a sudden everybody's concerned about the $16 an hour people. But you know what they also said to prove it was absolute crap? Nothing more than a smoke screen? Oh, we're going to put on a whole bunch of new people.
That's right.
Oh, guess what? That $16 an hour job is being sought after by a lot. They are not having a staffing issue in the water department, are they? No. So these people, it's not about the $16 an hour, is it? It's about where they work.
And I'll tell you.
Get in there. And I'm going to tell you, that's what aggravates me, because now they're complaining. Why didn't somebody in that council say this? Because of the hypocrisy of this crap. These people have been getting crap wages, and I don't believe they should have been. But they've been doing this for years to these people, and I never heard any counselor. I've heard them a couple of times say, oh, you know, there's clerks that are only making $30,000 while they're approving somebody's $100,000 paycheck. But they never go back and give that when it's making $16 an hour or $30,000 their pay raise, because they're still getting $30,000. Why didn't somebody at that meeting tell Furlan, Mr. Furlan, you're right, it is appalling that we're paying people $16 an hour. But you know what you can do for me if you want me to help and support this? Show that you really care. I'll tell you what we're going to do. Why don't you get rid of your consultant? Because you are running a department and you can't run it. They had to hire the old department head to come back, and he'll stay there forever and collect another paycheck. If you can't do your job, you shouldn't be getting $16 an hour. You shouldn't be getting 80 grand or 70 grand. You shouldn't be getting anything. You shouldn't be in a position. If you need somebody there to help you run a department, you're not qualified to run a department. But no, nobody will call out all the big money pays.
Well, and I said that I left a voicemail message.
Oh, yeah, please. Will you give, tell them what you told the city council.
I left a voicemail message for Andrew Raposo, and I said, you know, you got to remember, you don't represent the administration. You don't represent the department heads. You represent the people. And for you to just blindly approve for first reading these higher rates is appalling. It's I mean, I couldn't believe it when he didn't even wait. I moved that we move it first reading. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I said, why didn't you turn around and say to Mr. Furlan, you got your raise. You got your raise. How come they didn't get their raise? You got yours. Yeah. We didn't hear anything about rate increases when you got your raise, did we?
No.
But no, nobody said anything about that. God forbid.
Now that rate increase, all that money they're going to get is just to give these guys another $1.
Right.
That is horse manure, okay? That's the whole con. Listen, this city never cared about its regular wage employees. They justified the big police raise because they're having staffing issues. They're not having any problem with that. They even said we're going to hire more people. So I guess a lot of people want to work at the water department, even at $17 an hour. And oh, of course, it might not be because a lot of those jobs are political. I actually got a phone call from somebody that said that the wife of one of the upper echelon has just gotten a job in the water department in the office.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And we know a whole bunch of other people that got jobs there. So listen, look, I fought for pay raises. Nobody wants to see people. These people have been left behind for years. All of a sudden, in 2023, you just realize these people are getting $16 an hour? And now you're going to pretend you care? It's a con. You're going to get all of that money, then the majority of that money is going to you to use for what you want in your agenda. You threw them under there for optics. They're nothing more
than political props.
Props, exactly.
Political props.
The political prop, just like you march the kids in. Oh, look at the kids. You're going to give them this. Oh, look at the kids. They got to have a boxing gym, even though we had one that we didn't have to pay for at the PAL.
Yep.
And look at them all. Oh, look at the Boy Scouts. Look at the Girl Scouts. Look at look at this. Look at that. Well, how about the taxpayer? As CJ said, you represent the taxpayer. The water bill, and I love that one. 61 cents. Now they're breaking it down by the week.
By the week, yeah.
By the week.
By the
60.
week.
You know, that's the biggest. Look, we've still been looking. We've been on a show. We've been on a show over
12
a decade.
years.
12 years. We're still looking for somebody that ever got a water bill that went up the amount they said it did. That's BS. How many times did they say, oh, your water bill's going to go up $21? It goes up $150. It's like $80, $90. I'm going to tell you something. It's like finding a unicorn in your backyard. If you get that. If you're paying $61 a week, which comes out, and I did it, it's like $31 a year or something like that. If you checked your quarterly rates, add them up at the end of the year. If you got less than a $32 or less increase in your water bill for the entire year,
come on the
please send us an email. Come on the show. We're gonna put a big giant big heart over you because you're as rare as the dodo bird and a unicorn.
That's it. That's it. But hey, you know, while we're still on this, Linda called for a resolution to discuss the cable contract.
Yeah.
And I don't know if our station manager happened to watch it, but he was blamed for the cable contract.
Oh yeah, they never take any responsibility for anything.
Him and the station manager for Fred TV and Fall River Government Television was blamed for it, saying that the reason why they entered into the contract the way it was the 10-year contract was because it would be easier for these stations to set their budgets for capital improvement projects over the next 10 years.
And I am
Instead of accepting the responsibility on their own, that's what they wanted to do, they had to pass the buck.
Oh, as always.
And you know what? I don't blame our station manager or Fred TV or Fall River Government TV's manager for wanting a 10-year budget that they could, budget out their money because that gives them a little bit of stability. But let's be real. They had nothing to do with the contract negotiation. As a matter of fact, the city didn't have anything to do with contract negotiation. KP Law did.
Yeah, well, there you go. But then again, they had to approve the contract.
That's right.
So who approved the contract?
The corporate council for the city.
Okay, so there you go.
The city council didn't even vote the contract.
That's right. They don't care.
That's right.
They only care. It's just like the $16. Where did somebody, and I know for a fact that some councilors have relatives that work in the water department. Where have they been the last 10 years saying, my nephew, my cousin's only making $14 an hour while you just gave somebody a $19,000 pay raise? They weren't there. Crickets. It's all optics and prop. They guilt you. They're using and that's what really pisses me off because I had to go and fight for every damn penny And while they were throwing money at department heads and giving them automatic cost of living raises and everything else, and I said at every contract negotiation when I opened, and I negotiated a lot of contracts, I used to say, what's your wage demand? I said, we will forego any wage increase demand forever if you give us an automatic cost of living raise. And you know what their answer was? Are you nuts? But they should have finished the sentence. Are you nuts? We only give it to our friends and our administrators.
I was going to say, everyone in government center that's the department head gets a cost of living increase.
There you go.
And as a matter of fact, they just talked about that and said it's got to be the CPI. We got to start doing this to the CPI.
Because the CPI is pretty high now.
That's right.
The inflation.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. They pay attention to numbers.
That's
but
right.
It's not their numbers anymore, are they? They're like us. We actually go look at the CPI.
That's right.
But this is the whole problem, that these people are just, and even the ones that have good intentions, which are few and far in between, they just fall for this all the time. You got to call them out. And I'm tired of it, them not calling it out. Remember when I exposed Mary Sahadi, and Mary Sahadi's exposed, she said they wanted, the health care went up 7.5% and it only went up 4%.
Yep.
And then Gallagher went down and they asked Gallagher, how much did it go up? 4. How much money do you need? 40. Mary Sahadi said, no, we need 45. Then she said, okay, I'm going to take 39, and we still ran $3.5 million under budget. What were they going to do with that $6 million she was robbing to pad the budget? Nobody ever asks follow-up questions. We exposed Mary Sahadi's numbers 2 consecutive years in a row as being totally inaccurate. Would anybody hold their feet to the fire? No, absolutely not. It reminded me of Mayorkas. Did you see that interview with Mayorkas? They held up the wristbands that the hundreds of thousands of these illegals are coming up. Hold up. You know what this is, Mr. Mayorkas? No. So what do you mean, no? So these are the ID bracelets that the cartels put on so they can identify what cartel and how much they paid to come across the border. And you don't know that? And you're saying it? You have no idea. We got hundreds of thousands of people coming across the border. You know, you're either the biggest liar or total incompetent and you should resign. And that's the thing. That's what you call a follow-up question.
That's right.
So why doesn't the city council ever hold a person who's getting a big, big salary? What was Sahadi getting, 140, 150, 160? She gave him inaccurate numbers. It's like, but nobody says, you gave us the wrong number. How could you come up with this number? You're being paid big money to give this city council, who's the fiduciary of the city, accurate numbers, and you're not. And I can go back to 1991 when we sued them and we found out that they said we were broke and they had $2 million of money. And who did the statutorily required audit of the health care for that year? Mary Sahadi's company.
Yep.
So, you know, moral of that story is, if you want to never get anything right and get promoted, get a political job. Don't go into private industry because you'll be on a street in a heartbeat.
It's a shame that, you know, that's what it's come down to in Fall River, that, you know, everything is, as the New Bedford Standard Time article said, you want a good paying job, you go to Fall River as an administrator. If you want a good paying job, you go to New Bedford.
You know what, those people that came up that said, oh, vote for this for my pay raise, they should have said, it's about time you noticed we're only getting $16
That's
an
right.
hour.
Exactly. So especially seeing that you can get more money at Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's. I mean McDonald's got a sign up on the drive-through side. It says, you know, work here, $16 an hour, starting out salary. I mean, come on. It's got to get better than this. It's got to get better than this. And we deserve better than this from our city council, which obviously all 8 of them are idiots, because the only one that isn't is Michelle Dion. Well, I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Friday. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, Patrick.